Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and welcome back to another episode of Mario's Minute. In case you do not know, this is a podcast I do here monthly on the Mr. Mario 2011 YouTube channel, as well as on most major podcasting platforms. Simply look up Mario's Minute, and you should hopefully be able to find it. If you do check it out on YouTube, you're more than welcome to, but it's kind of just, the art photo that I have for my channel and stuff with a cool looking visualizer laid on top of it. At least I think it's pretty cool looking. Anyways, this is kind of just a secondary podcast I do where once a month I come on here and I talk about whatever the hell I want to. I do try to alternate where sometimes I have a guest on, sometimes I don't, and this is going to be a guestless episode. We're just going to be flying solo right here, and we can just go ahead and get straight into this. So first of all, maybe let's not start this off with something nice. No, let's go ahead and start this off with a little bit of something gross, something disappointing, something that is rant-worthy, I guess. Or I guess the closest that we can get to a rant. You see, actually, that's even one thing, kind of going on a tangent already before I even started the topic here. But I notice I don't really rant anymore. Sometimes, at least like offline, if I'm with friends and stuff, I will suddenly get into something that will really irk me and I will start ranting. There's a few topics. One of them could be, for example, this even happened before, but even in this current climate right now, with people who are in public who use the bathroom and don't wash their hands, that will very much irk me. And then if I'm in an area and I hear about people doing that, I will definitely get elevated. However, I just realized, at least on YouTube, I really don't rant as much as I used to. So we'll see how this is here. I feel like I've definitely calmed down in my older age here. I'm still young, but just getting older here because I've been doing this for a while. But either way, this is about the PlayStation 5, and this isn't even about the lack of features of the PlayStation 5 or Sony ended up sending a cease and desist to dbrand over their dark plates. That's definitely something extremely disappointing. So if you don't have the dark plates and you want to support what is going on here in terms of dbrand, definitely pick up the dark plates 2.0. I'm not affiliated with dbrand or anything. It'd be cool if I was, but I just I support that. I've personally already purchased the original dark plates of 4. I still haven't gotten to this topic, man. All right, let's just get to this, right? So the PS5 is still really hard to find, and I was actually able to get a hold of one myself. Now, I've actually been able to get a hold of some. Pretty much, I got a hold of one thanks to Tristan or Taz, who was a guest on here 2 guests ago. I ended up buying his PS5 used from him because he somehow has much better luck getting a PlayStation 5 than I do. Then I ended up getting another PS5 that I ended up kind of just shuffled around. I bought it from one of my friends, Mike is his name, shout out to Mike. I ended up buying it from him. He bought it at MSRP, he sold it to me at MSRP, and it was a discless one that he mistakenly bought, and then I ended up selling that at MSRP to one of my best friends, Sean, who's been here on the channel. So I literally just shuffled the money around and shuffled it to him at that point just to get him a system because he didn't care as long as he got a PS5. But then there was another one that I ended up getting. This one is going to be a present, so I can't say for who, just in case they are listening. But this one I was able to get through Best Buy, amazingly enough, before they end up kind of locking some PS5s behind that $200 paid membership paywall, whatever it is. Shout out to Matt Swider, I believe, on Twitter, who I was following his notifications, and I got to Best Buy just before the site started crashing and breaking, so that was nice. But the point is, you can't just go out. Right now, if I wanted to get a Switch, I could just get into my car, go to a store, and have a pretty good chance of picking up a brand new Switch and coming home setting it up. Would it be the OLED model? Probably not. It would probably be the full model or especially the light model. But the point is, there's no issue picking up a Switch at this point. But both the Series X and the PlayStation 5 are still hard to find. You can't just go to a store and buy one. You can't just go to a website and get one. I have another rant about that as well too, but I'll go ahead and talk to this. So, what ended up happening was, this was within the past month for sure. I ended up going to a shop that is kind of a chain that's all around. It can go by either vintage stock or movie trading company. And they have to have the grossest PlayStation 5 sales tactic I've ever seen. It is slimy, it's gross, it's anti-consumer. I hate it. And if you see this, do not get a PS5 this way. I'm telling you all, do not get a PS5 this way, because this is unacceptable right here. If you're a scalper, all right, you can avoid the scalpers, whatever it is. And I'm not going to support scalping here, but I'm saying if you don't want to buy from a scalper, you can avoid them. But this is a retail shop that is doing this. So this store is the only place that I've ever walked into and I've seen PlayStation 5 consoles in stock. And I've actually been there twice, somewhat recently here, and both times they had PS5s in stock. And I'll tell you why they have them in stock, right? So I saw them, and I just asked, like, oh, are those PS5s, or is that just the boxes? And they said, no, those are the PS5s. We do have them in stock. And I asked how much they are. And they said, now granted, for a disc-based version, which is what most people are getting, which I'm fully supporting here, right? I don't want a digital-only future here when it comes to this. But for a disc-based version, they sell brand new for $500 MSRP. So you should not be paying more. The most you should be paying for a PlayStation 5 console alone is $500 US plus tax, plus maybe shipping if you have to pay for shipping. That's the only thing that's kind of a maybe right there. But even most places are going to do free shipping on there. So let's just say $500 plus tax, that's what you should be paying in US dollars here. They were selling PS5s for $750. So already marking it up, right? But they did it as a bundle. So they said, yeah, it is $750, but you have to get an extra controller and 2 games. And at first I was like, oh, actually, that's not a bad deal. You know, you get a PS5, then they force you. So, you know, just to kind of weed out the scalpers there, it's a PS5 console, and they force you to spend extra by getting 2 games and a controller. That's actually similar to what GameStop does. Now, I don't like GameStop. I don't like buying from the site. I don't like the bundles, but GameStop has done something good that does help to deter scalpers, where if you want to get a PS5, you might have to pay $700, for example, but that $700 is going to get you like a year of PlayStation Plus, some PlayStation PSN Network money, maybe a game or two, maybe like $20, $30 worth of GameStop credit. But the point is, when you buy that bundle, if you add everything up, you're paying the same price. They are making you buy extra stuff, but you're not paying anything extra for that. It's not like you add it up and you're like, wait a minute, I'm paying another $50 to have all this bundle together. No. You're probably buying stuff that you don't care for or don't need extras of. Like, if I have to buy a sports game, I'm not going to play that sports game. I don't want to play that sports game. But the point is, if it's a $60 game, I'm just going to pay another $60 on what I'm doing, right? I'm not paying like $80 for a $60 game. This is not that, unfortunately. You're buying a PS5 console plus 2 games at full retail value, plus a second controller, which is fine. You know, you get a PS5, you want to get a couple games that you want to get an extra controller, go ahead. But on top of that, you're also paying an extra $250 as like a tip to them, just for the privilege of being able to buy a PlayStation 5 in store. So they even told me, they said, yeah, it's the PS5. The PS5 is $750, plus you have to buy 2 games, plus you have to buy a controller, and that's non-negotiable. Even if you want to pay the extra $250 for the PS5, which I don't know why you would, no, you can't do that. You have to get all that. So altogether, that's about, including tax and all, that's about $1,000 US right there. And I was just like, nope, not doing that. That's gross. I think I even said something like that out loud. And my friend who was with me, shout out Sean, he was laughing about that. And it's funny because he even had the same idea as me, where he was thinking, because he tried my PS5, he loved it, and he's like, dude, if this is $750 for the console plus 2 games plus a controller, like, done. I'm buying it right now. But no, that was not the case. That has to be the sleaziest thing I've seen for a PS5 in a store. That is gross. I don't know if anybody else has seen that at all. If anybody has seen that with, like, you know, anywhere else here. But I was shocked. I was disappointed. I was shocked. I was just grossed out by that tactic overall. And from what I see, I don't think they're really moving their PlayStation 5s all that much, or they're moving them slowly, albeit, but don't support that is what I'm saying. If it's not vintage stock, if it's not movie trading company, if it's a scalper, just what I'm saying is do not support that tactic. If you're going to be getting a PlayStation 5 console, you should be paying manufacturer suggested retail price plus tax plus possibly shipping. That's what you should be paying. So that was incredibly disappointing to see right there. I'm not sure how the rest of the scalping is going on this. I do know that when I ended up getting my PlayStation 5 through Best Buy, the other one that is, going to be a gift, there was some people who were saying like, oh, does this mean that, scalpers are going down? This is better. And I said, not really. If anything, I mean, October's finishing out right here. We're going to be going into November and then December, of course, like holiday season's going to be ramping up. No, if anything, the scalpers are just going to come out in droves even harder this time around. The difference is websites have had about a year at this point to implement as best they can, like verification methods, anti-scalping things, even prevent their websites from crashing or slowing down that crashing. What I'm saying is all these websites have had ample time to prepare and buff up their resources so that the demand is still there, but there's less of a chance of bots getting these systems, and there's more of a chance of real people getting the systems. But those real people can also be scalpers as well. I mean, I talked with someone who, this is a third-party story, but I talked with someone who knows of someone, it's one of those someone who knows someone type things, where this person works at Target, and apparently there is a dude who goes to this Target every single time they are stocked with PS5s, and he buys all of them, and he's just flipping them, and he's buying, I'm not talking about like one or two, he's buying 10 PS5s, 10 of them. Like, that is gross. Even when it comes to that, like Target, they need to put a stop to that, or even these stores. I know what some stores are doing, which I'd be more in support of this. Do something where it's like, hey, when you buy one of these systems, you have to provide your driver's license or some other form of ID, and you can't buy another one of these systems for 30 days. So if you get a disc-based PS5, you have to provide your ID. You can't buy another disc-based PS5 from that store for 30 days. I don't see it, and limit one per person as well, too. So even if it's someone that's just like, hey, well, I'm getting this PS5 for myself and I want to get a second one for my brother or my friend or my girlfriend or whatever it is, cool. All right, you have to either go to another store or you have to wait another 30 days at minimum to get a PS5. I think that's fine. I've just been annoyed with the scalping overall. The point is, on there, with all of my PS5s, I've played, I think for mine, I paid, technically when it came down to it all, and shout out to Taz for this, I think I paid a little less than MSRP, so he might have lost maybe tens of dollars on it overall, but for my other two, I just paid MSRP for those ones, MSRP plus tax, and that's been how it's been. So another thing here that was pretty cool to see initially, and then I was just like, oh god, okay. This is with Kingdom Hearts, right? I very much enjoy Kingdom Hearts, a series that's near and dear to me. And there's been some fantastic news. Well, not only with Sora now in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, who is actually a character, I haven't played this yet, but he's actually a character that I had asked for, like back in the Wii U days, with Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. There was a survey that went out, and one of the questions was, who is a character that you would like in Smash, like a DLC character? And I actually voted Sora. So for years, and that's the only time I voted for a character, or put the name in for a character. So I've been wanting Sora in Smash for years, and I think it's pretty fitting that I believe this is going to be the last DLC character added to Ultimate, and it's Sora, of all people. So I do need to pick up the Fighter's Pass or whatever. I don't know what the hell it's called. I need to get the DLC thing, is what I'm saying, for Smash. All right, I need to get that just to do it justice, because I asked for Sora years ago. We got Sora, and now there's no other characters that are going to be coming out to Ultimate. So we're all good with this. That was cool, but there was also another big announcement. The announcement is that every single Kingdom Hearts game is going to be on the Switch. So currently, Melody of Memories is that is actually on the Switch, like natively, but we're going to be getting Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD Remix. We're going to be getting Kingdom Hearts 2.5 HD Remix, and we're going to be getting Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Prologue. So when it comes to 1.5, 2.5, and 2.8, that means that we're, as well as Melody of Memories, we're going to be getting every single Kingdom Hearts game. They won't all be playable, because I know there's 2 or 3 of the games across those collections that are instead just kind of like interactive cutscenes. They're not really games anymore, if that makes sense. I want to say it is Kingdom Hearts Chi, I want to say, and I want to say the other one is 358 and a half days. So those ones you kind of just have to watch and experience. You can't actually play them. However, the big downside to this is that they are going to be the cloud versions. So that means that only one Kingdom Hearts game is natively available on the system, which is Melody of Memories, which, since that is a rhythm game, yeah, it kind of has to be there. It has to be. You can't have any delay on it, is what I'm saying. But when it comes to the other ones, no, they're all the cloud-based versions. And for me, myself, I'm against the cloud versions on here. I don't own any cloud games like that, any cloud versions. There are a few games that have released as cloud on the Switch. I know Control is on there. Resident Evil 7 is on there. And there has to be one or two other games. They're not coming to mind. But this is another thing I'm going to say, like, Kingdom Hearts on Switch, great, awesome. Like, that's cool. The idea has sounded awesome. But when it comes down to this, I just don't like the cloud version. And for anybody who's even uninitiated here, who doesn't know what I'm talking about, this means that the game is not natively running on the Switch. Essentially, you will purchase the game because it's going to be digital. There's no way it's going to be physical. You purchase the game, you get a license, and there's probably going to be a small download that you have to pull down from the server, maybe 50, 100 megabytes, something like that. And it will show up on your home screen as an actual game, but it's more just an application. So you're going to launch this, and it's going to require an internet connection. Not just because you have to download, that application, obviously, but it will require an internet connection because you are streaming the game to your Switch. So what's happening is the game is running on some server somewhere to the service that you are connected to. You have paid for the application. That means that you have paid for the license and the privilege of utilizing that server whenever you want to, as long as it's up, and using your bandwidth and your internet connection and everything to then stream the game itself. So it's going to be like Google Stadia or was it PlayStation Now? I don't remember which one it was, or like GeForce Now, for example. It's game streaming. You're not playing the game. The game is not natively running on your Switch. There's no added processing power that's running on your Switch. There's audio and visuals that's on your Switch's screen or on the screen like your TV that you're connected to, and you're using the Switch as a controller to send all of your controls and everything using the internet over to a server somewhere that's actually running the application, like the Kingdom Hearts application, and is doing all the processing and all the horsepower, and it's beaming everything back over to your Switch. I know, very layman, basic way of expressing that right there. But that's what it is. The game itself is not running. So if your internet is not great, you're going to have a bad experience. If your internet connection drops, you're not going to be able to play the game. If you're out and about and you don't have an internet connection available, you're not going to be able to play Kingdom Hearts on the Switch. Even if you're at home, you're playing like portably or something, and your internet just goes out maybe for a few hours. Like, let's say you have a power outage, you can't play Kingdom Hearts on your Switch unless it's that Melody of Memories and you have it on there, you have it downloaded, or you have the cartridge right there. So that's the issue. I think the thing that makes it bad as well too is that Wi-Fi on the Switch is not super great when it comes down to it. And even if you dock the Switch and you go wired, whether that's with the Switch OLED dock that has native Ethernet in there, or if you use a USB to Ethernet adapter on the original dock, the speed is not that great, although you're not necessarily going to need super high speed on there, but it does help. It will definitely help with latency, which you would need for this, and there will still be latency on there. But I hate it. All right? Because even on top of this as well, too, if you have an Xbox, like an Xbox One, or you have a PlayStation 4, or now even an Xbox Series S, or a Series X, or a PlayStation 5, you can play all the games on there just fine. Like the PS4, for example, you can get Kingdom Hearts like all in one, or I don't remember the collection name, but I think it's all in one, where it's and Kingdom Hearts 3, I forgot about that. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be in there. So point is, you can you can buy and play every single Kingdom Hearts game on PS4 or PS5 for like no more than $60. And I think all these are going to be sold separately on here as well, too. And you're going to get a better experience because it's going to be native. I don't know if this is even going to run at 60 frames per second on the Switch. If the Switch is not going to be doing the processing power and we're relying on servers elsewhere, those things better run at 60 frames per second. It better be smooth. I know the PS3 versions, when 1.5 and 2.5 came out on PS3, those ones run at 30 frames. I'm pretty sure they do, at least, from what I recall. And that's fine. That's PS3. That's fine. But when it comes to, PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5, again, you can get a better experience for a more affordable price on there. So for me, I'm not going to be hopping on this. Now, I do own Melody of Memories. I do own that on Switch because I think, it's going to be great on Switch. It's portable. It's right there. It's great. But I refuse to own any cloud-based game on the Switch. Now, I know, shout out to MVG, he was saying, we're probably going to see more of these cloud versions on the Switch because don't think that it's a coincidence or just, something funny that Nintendo decided to pull one of the USB ports on the dock, and on the new dock, they ended up replacing it with a Ethernet connection. They're probably going to be pushing some more cloud versions of games on there, which I don't agree with at all. Not that I disagree with MVG. I do think that would happen, but I hate these these streamed versions of games on here. When I have a console, I want the game ported on there. I want it to play natively on the system. I don't want this cloud business here, unless I'm actually paying for a cloud service. Like, if I have a decent or a crappy laptop or whatever it is, and I end up getting GeForce Now, I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm aware that I'm paying a service to stream a game, or even Stadia, for example. That's fine. But when I buy an actual console, a PS4, a PS5, a Xbox One, a Switch, whatever it is, I want to play the game natively on there. That's just me. So that's what's been going on there. Now, I ended up recently here, I actually did a bit of traveling. I ended up flying on a plane for the first time in about 2 years at this point, and I ended up going to Canada. There was a specific reason. My girlfriend actually lives up in Canada, so I ended up visiting and seeing her, and we had a great time and everything, to put it lightly, of course. But what happened was, the way I did it was, I just kind of wanted to share this because the whole travel experience was interesting. So I've done a little bit of traveling here, in the past 2 years or so, and I keep saying that because of, COVID-19 and everything. However, all my travel has really been limited to cars, and I haven't been flying or anything. And when I do go places, I'm making sure to mask up. I'm washing my hands. I am, using sanitizer and all that stuff. I keep sanitizer in the car. Even for my status, I am fully vaccinated, so it is what it is there. However, when it comes down to it, I was still just, avoiding planes and stuff. Well, going to Canada from the U.S., I mean, that's going to take a bit of effort and such, and even so, I'm not super close to the border, so driving the whole way would take quite a bit. So what I did was I kind of ended up doing both. Now, what ended up happening was I ended up flying over to Seattle because I could not get a direct flight over to Canada where I was trying to go to. I ended up flying into Seattle, and then it was just a few hours up north that I was able to drive. So I had to look this up, and I ended up, flying out to Seattle. I rented a car. I was able to take it into Canada, thankfully. However, I couldn't just leave it in Canada, so I couldn't even, fly back. I had to then drive back into Seattle and then fly back home, which is fine as long as I understood everything on there. However, when it comes down to it, because of COVID-19 and everything, it's added more complexities to it. So first of all, if you are in an airport or if you're on a plane, regardless of your vaccination status, you have to be masked up constantly. The only times you cannot wear a mask, or you don't have to wear a mask, are when you're eating or drinking something, because that's, totally understandable and you need to sustain your body. But unless you're eating or drinking anything, you have to stay masked up, which I'm okay with, but I was just keeping my mask on the entire time there, unless, of course, I was eating or drinking something, and even then I'd keep it, I'd do it quickly. Now, I ended up going, I flew out to Seattle, and I did stay there overnight because I was thinking this might have been it. There's something, you do have to check, where you're going, where you're traveling, and all that stuff. But when it comes to Canada, it's interesting because if you are flying into Canada, so if I flew from Seattle into wherever I was going to Canada, whatever airport it was, you have to provide a negative COVID-19 test result. And it has to specifically be like a PCR test, the one that takes, about a day to get back. You can't do the rapid test. You can't do the antigen. It has to be the full test, and it has to be within 72 hours, and it has to be from the point of origin. So that's why if you don't have a direct flight, like let's say you have, one hop in between like I did, I would have to fly into Seattle, test in Seattle, wait to get a negative result, and then use that negative result to fly into Canada, which is why I was originally staying there overnight. Now, I will say, one dude who has traveled quite a bit, and he actually did travel to Canada, I want to say twice before I even got there, was my friend Adam Korlick. Like, big shout out to Adam Korlick, love the dude. But at first, he was kind of, telling me the lowdown on some things, what to do and all that, recommended where to test and everything. Then he was able to find out some extra stuff, and he even experienced it. And when it comes to driving, it ends up being easier. Because when it came down to it, right, and even the funny thing is there's even loopholes in this as well too, but this is just the facts of how it was, and this is how I was able to do it. So if you are driving into Canada, they don't care where you get the test from. I'm sure it has to be, if you're driving from the US, it has to be in the US. They just care as long as it is fresh within 72 hours of you trying to enter Canada, drive through the border, which is what I did. So even when Adam found that out, and I checked it on the website, and that is the language that they used, not the exact language, but the point is, like, when you read it there, that is how it is. Like, that's how the status is. And then Adam even tested it himself. It worked out fine. So he was telling me, he's like, dude, just don't waste your time in Seattle with that. Yeah, you're staying overnight there already. You booked it because that's what you were thinking there. Just enjoy Seattle. It's fine. Just enjoy being there overnight. But get your test done at home. Get your test done there. Get your negative result, use that to get into Canada, because Seattle's backed up right now. You do not want to get stuck in Seattle for a few days. Like, it's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with Seattle. Like, I love Seattle, don't get me wrong, but that's not my final destination, is what I'm saying. So I decided to do that, and I said, I'm probably going to do both, kind of a just-in-case measure. Like, I'm going to test at home, and then I'm going to test in Seattle. Adam was saying, you're making it too complicated. You don't need to do that. It's fine. Just test at home, use that, you're done. And big shout out to him for that, because what happened was I couldn't even go with my original plan. I did test at home, and then the next day, or I think the day after, it was the day after, I ended up flying out. And originally I went to the airport, I was getting breakfast, and then I was going to schedule a test where I was going to go. And they, for whatever reason, I could not test at this place. They weren't taking anyone that day. And I looked around, and there were a bunch of other places that were open, but they only did the antigen tests, which is, the rapid test you get back in like 15 minutes or an hour or something, which Canada does not accept, unfortunately. So I said, well, crap, I can't even test here if I wanted to. Thankfully, I have this result. And I was telling my girlfriend this, and she was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, she was worried, but even when I showed her the site, and I was just like, hey, this is what it says. This is all from the official Canadian government. This is what they're saying. Like, yep, it worked out. So she was like, cool, all right, hopefully you should be good tomorrow. I said, I'm hoping so. So what happened, like, when I was in Seattle, I went to a few places. I said, you know what, I'm going to be here. I'm going to enjoy myself, right? So I ended up going to a Starbucks Reserve, and I want to say there's 2 or maybe 3 of them, because Adam was the one who said, he's like, when you're there, you got to go there. And when you go there, there's going to be a specific drink that you need to get, and you need to enjoy it. And I'll tell you what it is when you get there. So, all right, I'm sorry, Adam, I'm going to spoil it for these people, all right? Look, if you're in Seattle, you go to Starbucks Reserve, this is a fantastic drink to get if you have some time to kill, if you just want to relax, enjoy yourself, and especially if you like coffee. It is the Knob Creek Bourbon Whiskey Barrel Aged Cold Brew. That's it. And if you don't like coffee, you're probably not going to rock with this, right? And there's no alcohol in this. So even if, like, I don't drink, for example, I stopped drinking over a year ago, and I don't think I'm going to, ever again at this point. But if you're worried about alcohol, there's no alcohol in there. If you're wanting food, they have a bunch of really awesome food there as well too. But this is very much a drink. You sip it, you enjoy it. It tastes so nice. It is so rich. It's probably the best cold brew drink that I have had, and it's incredibly enjoyable. But I ended up getting that, and I was just kind of killing time just in there for a few hours because I was waiting for my Airbnb to open up. Ended up going to my Airbnb, left my stuff there, and then I ended up getting I had an Orca card, so I was using that to get around as well as Uber, and I was taking, buses, I was taking Ubers, I was taking the light rail as well too. And there was a few shops that I went to. Like, I went to both Pink Gorilla locations. Definitely loved checking those places out. And I wanted to, thankfully I had restraint. I really wanted to get, just get some, but there was nothing I really needed there. Although I still wanted to support the store, and I said, you know what, this is going to be useful as well too. So I actually ended up getting a Switch case, like a case for the console, for my girlfriend as a present. So she ended up enjoying that. And it's a really thick case too that allows you to have a lot of stuff in there. So that was really nice. There was also a Japanese bookstore, Kinokuniya, that I went to. There was another older place like Al's Music, Games, and Videos. I believe that's what it is. That place is really cool too. If you're ever in Seattle and you're in the University District, just check that out. A lot of people talk about Pink Gorilla and some other shops. So I never see any love for Owls, not owls, but just going around, I ended up getting dinner from somewhere as well too. And when it was getting kind of late, really just when it started getting dark, that's when I went back to the B&B, showered, and went to sleep just because I was super tired. And then the next day, I ended up getting my rental car, and I drove up to Canada and where I needed to go, which was great. A really awesome experience overall. I will say it's been a while since I've gone through, a border and border patrol, and I've actually never driven through a border. So it was just interesting going through that experience and having them asking, what you're doing here, details, all the other stuff. And I'll admit, I was a little bit nervous as well too. And I kind of just told them, because they asked, hey, are you nervous? I was like, yeah, I am, because I haven't done this in a few years. But oh my God, I would tell you all this. If you are nervous going through a border or something, they will eat at that. They will pick at it because they're trying, and I understand they're doing their job. They're just, they're trying to see, if you're hiding anything, if there's anything weird that you're doing, especially if you're, being like a mule as well too. That's even one question they ask. They ask hey, has anybody ended up bringing any, did they give you any packages that you need to bring? And, of course I said no there. So that's what was going on over there. And then honestly, for the trip itself, it was mostly just my girlfriend and I hanging out, going to see a few places, getting awesome food, as well as hanging out with her friends as well too, just having a good time there. And we're enjoying each other's company in that way, because it's very much one of those things, when you got that physical distance like that, and especially when I think the Canadian border, when did it open up? I think it opened up early August. So it had been closed to the US for, over a year at that point. But especially when that's going on, you really value, just offline, human to human interaction like that. So it's very much one of those things, we didn't have anything grandiose planned, taking a trip out here, whatever it is. I mean, maybe the longest trip we did was we ended up driving probably round trip, like 3 hours or something, to go to this one place, go to this area, get like boba tea and poutine, and then like bring it back. And that was great. But like what I'm saying is there wasn't any like major travel that was planned, or really any major plans, which was perfectly fine for the both of us. So that was really enjoyable overall, and I just got back here, recently with that as well too, a few days ago at least from the time of recording this, but that's what ended up happening. So that was the traveling experience I got to have this year, which was, or not this year, this month, excuse me, which was actually, it was pretty fun. If you've never been, like if you're in the U.S. and you've never been to Canada, I definitely recommend going. If you're going anywhere like for first time, I'd probably say Toronto is a pretty safe bet for the most part. I've been to the Toronto area several times. I haven't been there since, COVID hit and everything, but I've been to the Toronto area several times, and I absolutely love the area right there. So cannot recommend that enough. Now, kind of a quick thing here. I ended up revisiting the Switch here recently, and not just because I got the Switch OLED model, but I also ended up revisiting the Switch mods as well too. Not only I helped out one of my friends with his Switch, he just kind of had it like it was super outdated. He hadn't messed with the actual mods in a while, so he kind of wanted to just get up to date on the latest and greatest stuff. But even I actually did this with my own Switch, where I do have an original Switch. It's the Arista model. It's my launch model that I got, first day I had the system, first day the system released. The one that I've had to RMA way too many times at this point, and it's been fine after that. It's been fine for a while now, for well over a year, thank goodness. But I've now transitioned over to the OLED model. So after using the OLED model for, over a week and all that, and, my data was fine, I wasn't really caring about anything, I said, you know what, I don't need any data on the old Switch anymore. And my old Switch, it has this 400 gigabyte micro SD card, and I don't really want to reuse on anything else right now because I've, used it so much, especially with that Switch. So it's, I'm sure it's somewhat thrashed to a degree. But even so, I think it'd just kind of be a waste to keep this all unused, and I don't really need a secondary Switch, like, just completely stock. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead, take this thing, boot into, the emergency mode, completely wipe it, like nuke it from orbit, and then I'm going to modify this thing. So I have it on the latest firmware. At the time of recording this, it's 13.0.0. And I just end up going through the process of getting it all modified just from scratch. So I ended up taking a NAND backup of it, or MMC backup, whatever you're going to call it. Used Ikate to do all that. So got it just completely wiped, brand new, reset, clean. Also the micro SD card, even though I have the exFAT driver enabled, I did reformat it to FAT32 just to avoid corruption, all that. And I have run into that as well too. I know there's people who are going to say, which I've been with you all, there's people who are going to say, oh yeah, I've had exFAT on my Switch for years and it's been fine. Yo, I've been there, and it was specifically when I was running, like a while ago, when I was running like the Grand Theft Auto 3 port that was on there. What was going on? The homebrew port that was made, I kept having save corruption on there, where my save would just randomly corrupt. And all I know is that when I changed to FAT32, the issue went away. So that's why I used to be one of those exFAT people, but no, I go with FAT32 on my Switch if I'm modding it. So what happened there was I ended up taking the NAND backup and everything, had to then back up all my stuff, had to then partition the micro SD card because I chose to do a partition, then restored my MMC from the actual console itself over to the partition that was made, had to restore my data back over to the micro SD card, including the backup as well too, just so I have that on hand. Then I have, Atmosphere custom firmware running on there. I'm currently running 1.2.0 pre-release, I want to say. And for whenever I decide to install anything on there, I put signature patches on there as well. I think the only thing I've really put on has been RetroArch. Just copy that over, got it all ready to go. I haven't messed with it in about a day or two. But the point is, on there, it's definitely like Switch scene, getting it all set up. It's definitely come a longer way. Hikate is much nicer because it has Nix on there, so you can actually touch the screen as opposed to using the volume up, volume down, power button, and all that. So that's been there for a while, of course. MMC is working flawlessly on there, and even so, if you decide to back up your NAND, a NAND backup takes like 15-20 minutes. Creating the MMC ends up taking 15-20 minutes there as well too. But really just at the beginning, if you're going through all those steps, like if you just want to take all your files, you put them on the micro SD card, you just launch into Atmosphere on the SysNAND, and you're ready to rock at that point. It doesn't take that long. It takes like 5 or 10 minutes. But if you're going through the process of, kind of starting clean, making sure you have a proper NAND backup, making sure you have a MMC, backing everything up off your micro SD card or storing it back over, getting all that stuff done, that's what can take you maybe an hour or two, something like that. And it feels like a lot of steps in the process because it kind of is. It's not like the Vita where like Vita Deploy makes everything so much faster and easier. It's not even like the 3DS where you're done within like 10-15 minutes. Again, you can be done on the Switch in like 10 minutes if you're just doing everything off the off the SysNAND and you don't care about a backup or anything, which I don't advise that. Even if you're just going to run Atmosphere off of your system NAND, make a backup. Like the first thing you need to be doing is making a backup of your system. And I'm not talking about just like backing up your micro SD card content. I'm talking about making an actual NAND backup. So in case your system ever breaks, you can restore it. Because thankfully the Switch scene has like come far enough at this point where if you have a NAND backup, like you're really all good. If something completely borks your NAND, you restore it, you're good. Even if your NAND chip ends up going out on you, you can buy a replacement module, you can install that on your Switch, and then you can restore your NAND back to that replacement NAND module, and then you're up and running as long as you have that backup. There have been sad stories I've seen where people don't have backups, or they don't have proper backups, or maybe even the saddest one I saw, and I think even some of this stuff now you can actually even still kind of rebuild your system in a way. There's certain ways to do it. So thankfully that's come pretty damn far, but maybe one of the saddest stories I saw was there was somebody who they did not make a proper NAND backup. They ended up bricking their Switch in a way, and they had another NAND backup that they restored to their system. And they were saying, well, this other NAND backup is from a working system and it worked just fine, but it won't work on my system. So people are like, okay, well, where's the original NAND backup? They're like, no, I don't have one. So it's like, well, dude, your system's toast. At least at the time. I'm hoping maybe it's gotten better now. I'm sure somebody who's been deeper into the scene can elaborate on that. But at the time, it's just like, well, wait a minute, wait. So everything is wiped at that point. Because it's not just that you didn't have a backup of your system, but it's that you then took another full system backup and restored it onto your console, which will never work. So that was a bit of a disappointing one there. Maybe one last thing, which I didn't even have this on the list here of things I was going to talk about, was the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Editions. Now, this has been maybe the worst kept secret related to Grand Theft Auto by far. But in case you don't know, this is a trilogy of the 3D era games. That's what people call them. It's going to be a remaster of 3 Vice City San Andreas. It's going to come out, I want to say November 11th. Let me check the dates here. I think it's November 11th, which is odd. That's a Thursday. It's going to come out November 11th digitally on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Switch. And then physically, it's supposed to come out December 7th. And I believe there's going to be mobile ports for iOS and Android, and that's going to come out next year. And from what I see, the PS5 series versions are going to run up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is great. Now, first of all, just with it looking like, it's very polarizing. I have to say this is the most polarizing remaster I've ever seen. There's people that say this looks incredible, this looks amazing, this is awesome, this is amazing, this is perfect. And there's people that say this is god awful, what have they done? Look how they massacred my boy. And like, I mean, when I saw how fat who's the dude? Tommy Vercetti ended up getting. Well, I'll put it like this. I sent a screenshot of this to my girlfriend, and she put it best where she said something like, yeah, COVID really did a number on him. Like, he definitely gained those pounds. But how do I feel about, like, it looks like they're going for a glossier, kind of sort of realistic, kind of sort of cartoony look, because these games, when they came out in, 2001, 2002, 2004, they were going for like that PS2 era realistic looking look, which some people just hate how it looks now. And I always say it hasn't really aged the best. But this is kind of like smoother looking, it's glossier, it's more colorful, it's shinier. These games, I'm sure, are going to be fun. I'm just not sure how I feel about the look so far. Almost like it looks so shiny. I'm like, this almost looks like Pixar Grand Theft Auto in a way. But I'm sure when I play these, and I know I'm going to play them, they are going to be fun games. I find it odd they're doing the digital release like a month early on there, and especially on a Thursday. That's kind of odd, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to double dip where they want the physical version, but they're just not going to be able to wait to do that, so they're going to pick up the digital release on there. I'm sure the Switch version will probably run at 30 frames per second, and then the PS4, PS5, Xbox versions are going to run at 60 frames. That's what I'm predicting on there at least, and we'll see if there's any disparity between 30 and 60 frames per second between, like Xbox One and Xbox One X, or Xbox One overall to Xbox Series. And same thing with like PS4 to PS4 Pro, and then like, PS4 overall to PS5. We're just going to have to see when it comes to that. I think they're all going to be releasing at $60. And then one thing that was kind of odd is like, I want to say like PlayStation Now or something. That's what it's called. I think PlayStation Now is going to be getting Grand Theft Auto 3, which that's my favorite one. That's my all-time favorite game. I'm looking forward to that. And Xbox Game Pass is going to be getting San Andreas. So I'm not sure why there's the difference there. And I guess nobody's going to be getting Vice City because Nintendo sure as hell is not going to be giving out anything like that. But the disappointing thing when it comes to this overall is that I talked about this on last month's episode of Mod Chat, is just kind of a dampener overall. Take-Two, which is Rockstar Games' parent company, they killed a lot of really awesome community stuff for these games to happen. This is also part of why it just felt like this was such a shitty way of unofficially confirming this. They started taking down a lot of 3D era related mods, just sending like DMCA takedowns to like, Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas mods, even like Grand Theft Auto 4, Grand Theft Auto 5 mods that end up bringing like Carcer City from Manhunt, for example, Liberty City, Vice City, San Andreas, that end up putting like elements of those games into the newer games or even switching them between other games. A lot of those mods died. And maybe the biggest one is the RE3 project, which, if you don't know, it is a reverse engineering effort for Grand Theft Auto 3, in which Grand Theft Auto 3 and even Vice City were pretty much fully reverse engineered. And it was because of that project, that's why we end up getting unofficial homebrew ports of Vice City and Grand Theft Auto 3 on the Switch, on, I believe, the 3DS, on the Vita, but even on PC, they were able to pretty much recompile an open source executable and re-implement this. So it's not only just like, you had an open source version of the game that was running in a way as long as you brought your assets over, but you also had so many fixes that were in there as well too, and so much better mod support, because these games are like, if you go out and you get Grand Theft Auto 3 on Steam and you try and play it on like a modern PC, like install Windows 10, Windows 11, there's going to be a lot of issues that you're going to run into. Unless you do a bunch of tweaks, you install a bunch of mods, or you can just literally put the executable for RE3 and the settings in there, and you're ready to rock at that point. Not only that project was taken down, but a lot of the developers behind it are actually being sued by Take-Two. And even if you're completely removed from the mod scene on there, you can no longer get those original games digitally. So on Xbox, on PlayStation, and on the Steam storefronts, and I guess Rockstar Games launch as well too, you can no longer buy the original Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, or San Andreas. And some people might be saying, oh, well, you just said that they're broken on there. That's true, but there's ways that you could fix them up, or even if you just run them on an older system, like if you have like a Windows 7 setup or something, you can still play them on there. But that's been completely removed. So the only way you can now play those, like download those, is if you have access to an account. Like, for example, my Steam account, I do have those games digitally purchased on there, so I can always re-download them. At least I would hope so. Or if you have the physical versions of them as well, too. So I have Grand Theft Auto 3 on Xbox, PS2. I even have it on PC. So I'm not worried about that, but I just... That's the downside of it all to me, is that a lot of stuff died, and even there's literally people who are getting sued because of, because of the love that people had for these original games and this original trilogy. So I guess we'll see how it officially plays out. I guess one big thing overall is that, for positive for this, and we'll see, it does seem to have revamped, more modern Grand Theft Auto 5 style controls and aiming systems. So we'll see how that goes. But even so, I think that will probably appeal quite a bit to a younger audience that did not grow up with these games. For me, I did grow up with them, and I do revisit them somewhat regularly as well, too. Like in the past year, I have played Grand Theft Auto 3 and San Andreas for sure. Not 100% sure about Vice City. I think I dabbled with it a little bit. Let's just say I have. So I have played these games here. No, I did actually. Yeah. All these games, what I'm saying, I've played them in their original forms, like in the past year, and I can adapt to them and I can grow with them. Like, I get that. But if you're somebody, like, if you're, I don't know, maybe like 13, 14 years old, you might not have even played Grand Theft Auto 3. So going back to that, where you have a character that can't even swim, like, oh, that's going to be a big one as well, too. I wonder if Claude will be able to swim. We'll see. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to be disappointed to see that Claude is just completely silent. So, we'll see how that goes. All right, so for our last topic here, sorry, we're going to be bypassing the game store stories here, just because I didn't realize I didn't have a story lined up until just now, like 10 seconds ago. But on top of that, we're also getting to, close to an hour. So I want to talk about, the thing I do talk about at the end of these episodes, which is what games I'm currently playing. So right now, I end up just grabbing my Switch just to see what was going on here, but I've ended up playing a little bit of What the Golf. My girlfriend and I actually were playing that and were enjoying it, although getting to par on some of those courses is pretty challenging, to say the least. I did pick up Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. I have played the original one, at least the unofficial Switch port, and I enjoyed it quite a bit on there. So I've barely gotten into it on the Switch here, like the official version of it. And I can't really say much else about it, because if I share too much about it, I'm going to start spoiling it, but I can at least factually say that's where I'm at with it. Now, the one game I did end up finishing this month was actually Panzer Dragoon Remake. I ended up playing it on the Switch, and I actually started and finished it on a plane ride. It is pretty short. You can finish it within an hour, maybe 2 hours, and it's really cool because I enjoy the original Panzer Dragoon, but I will say the remake did a fantastic job of really just capturing the original Panzer Dragoon and still capturing the fun factor of it and everything, and paying a large amount of respect to the game as well, too. It's also really cool because when you unlock it, you end up getting the Pandora's Box mode, where once you have Pandora's Box available, you have to enter a cheat code at the beginning, and you end up getting a full cheat menu and cheat system setup, so that increases the replay value even further, which is awesome. Now, I was playing it on the Switch, and the cool thing is, if you have it on the Switch, make sure you get the latest patch for it, because there's actually quite a few quality of life enhancements on there, as well as a performance mode. So, unfortunately, because it is the Switch, you're not able to stay locked at this, but it will unlock the frame rate and take you up to 60 frames per second, as opposed to just capping it at 30 frames. So that's how I was playing it. I was playing it portably. I was playing it on my Switch OLED, and it was great on there as well, too. And then I also end up starting The Outer Worlds on Switch, which I will say, kind of ugly looking, right? Like, I've played on Xbox One X. I enjoyed it quite a bit there. But I will say, if I'm just bringing it around portably, I don't have an internet connection. Looking at you, Kingdom Hearts, but I don't have an internet connection, and I just want to play it offline on my Switch. It's pretty enjoyable. I mean, it's still the same game and everything, and I was actually impressed at what they were able to compress down to it, but at the same time, I'm not even gonna front. It is ugly looking on the Switch. And then, of course, I've also been playing Ring Fit Adventure. So even though I did beat that game, I'm kind of doing the New Game Plus thing in a way, and that is how I work out. Even at this point, like, because of COVID last year, I ended up canceling my gym membership, and I just started doing Ring Fit. And even now that, I'm kind of still, going out, traveling a bit, I'm working in an office as well too. What I do is, even when I'm out, like, I will just, like, I'm not saying like out, like, randomly enjoying myself, but like, for example, if I'm at work, I will bring my Ring Fit setup, because I bring my Switch with me, but I bring my Ring Fit setup, and I just, find a spare room and just do my workout in there. As long as, everything is clean and all that stuff, it's fine. But yeah, I'd say that's been worth it. Between that and just walking my dog Lily, it's all been great. So those have been the games that I've been playing, at least in the past month or so. I think there's probably been some others. I know I was playing a little bit of, I have the PS5, and like, I'm just trying to think, like, I'm blanking on even the stuff that I've played on there. I do know we actually started playing Splitgate, which I was told, no, I think we talked about it on the last episode. It was Mod Shop and I, where Splitgate, people sold it to me as Halo with portals, and I'll say, man, it is just good, solid Halo 2, Halo 3 style combat with portals. That's what it is. So that's been fun, and I played a little bit, just like a little bit, the first bit of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered on PS5, through PS4 backwards compatibility. And what can I say? It's Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. I think I played the first, like, level or two, and I was like, okay, cool, we're all good, and then I did something else. So that's what I've been playing here recently. I've actually been pretty busy offline, so I haven't been able to play as much as I would like to, but it's all been good. There's been fun stuff that's been going on, so yeah. Anyways, that is about it for this episode of Mario's Minute. I want to say, I appreciate you all for listening and watching and really just tuning in, whether this is your first episode or whether you've been here for a bit. I really appreciate it. And, now I need to pick a keyword of some kind. And I'm just kind of looking around, and I'm trying to, figure something here. How about... because we've been talking about this, more a remaster, but because I talked about this game here at the end, how about the word remake? Have you played Panzer Dragoon Remake? Do you prefer remakes as opposed to remasters? When looking at the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, would you rather them all be remade from the ground up as opposed to just remastered the way they are? If you use the word remake in a sentence, or if you just use it in a comment on the YouTube upload of this episode of Mario's Minute, when I'm going through the comments, and I do, I will know that you will have made it to the end, again, if you use the word remake in your comment. Anyways, that is about it for this episode of Mario's Minute. Again, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope you had a little bit of fun here. It's been fun hanging out with you all, and, until next month.